All right. Hey, everybody. We are officially streaming here. This is part 2 of how I edit podcasts. This particular podcast is Echo Base of the Random Chatter Network. And I will start by recapping everything I've done so far as quickly as I possibly can. So, what we have right here is the stereo file. Zooming out and out and out and out. So far, the podcast is about an hour and 3 minutes long or something like that. It'll probably end up being about 55 minutes long after I go through and kill all the ums and heavy breathing and all that good stuff. And to get to this point, I had to do some pre-editing, right? So let's open up the track manager right here. And, oops, let me kill that real quick. I need to really quickly switch to make sure that you guys can see. There we go. All right. So you can see the window that pops up. So track manager is right here. And I'm currently hiding all the tracks that I don't want to see right now. So I will show them all to show you what I've done so far. Right, so here's my track. And for this, I've got some effects going. I had this going, but it ended up adding too much of a delay. I've got a gate on my microphone, and then it's going through just some a little bit of compression, a little bit of EQ, and a trimmer, and that's it. So that's what I've got going for me right now. And that's that. So here's Chris, Tim, and Lou, the 3 hosts of Echo Base. This is all the pre-editing that I've done so far. All those are muted now because I don't want to hear them. And here's the room channel. And to go over the room again, what I do is at the beginning of every podcast that I produce, I like to ask the host to just talk for, or sorry, not talk, but just have silence for 30 seconds. So I just have the room. And what that does is basically no matter how many people are talking, I can choose whichever room tone I like the most and use that throughout the entire podcast to make it sound like everybody is in that one room, because I gate all the hosts. So when they're not talking, there's just silence, and which is super weird, especially if there's a break and no one's talking. It suddenly just dips to silence, which I hate. And so I grab a room tone. In this case, it was Lou's. And so now when they're talking and everybody stops, you can hear Lou's room tone going in the background. And because they're not really moving or doing much of anything, it doesn't feel like you're listening to this 30-second loop over and over and over and over again. You don't even notice it. So this is all the pre-editing I've done. You can see all the cuts I've made. I've moved some regions around. I call them regions in Reaper. They're technically items, but I grew up on Pro Tools, so I call them regions. And got that all right where I want it, panning. Chris to the left, Tim to the right, Lou in the center. And so I'm left with this final 2 track, which I'm going to go through now and surgically destroy anything I don't want to hear. All right, so let's go back to the track manager. And I'm going to hide the tracks I don't want to see again. All right, so now I have this, which we're going to go through. I have a track for the intro and outro, and then I have what's called the trash track. I'm going to go through exactly what's happening with the trash track right now. So it's a custom action that I made in Reaper, and if you're unfamiliar with Reaper, if you go to the action list, here is a list of everything you can do in Reaper. It's a really big list. This isn't all default in Reaper. SWS is something that you download separate, and then there's all these scripts are something that you download separately, but they're free. I do recommend donating to the makers if you can, because you can do some really cool stuff. So this is the trash track. I'm going to open it up real quick, and you can see exactly what's happening. So the first thing it does is it copies the item that I've selected, which is basically what I want to delete from that track and move to the trash track. So it copies that item, it selects it, it selects track 10, which is what I always have as the trash track. It pastes the item onto that track. It then selects all items on selected tracks in current time selection, which is, there's a lot of selection in that sentence. Anything I've sent to the trash track, it will select in the current time selection, which I've done the time selection across the entire project and locked it in place, so it's not going to move. And then it basically, after grabbing all of the items, it will then snap them together. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like, right? So let's go to the very beginning here. Oops, let's go, here we go. To the very, very, very beginning. And I'll show you exactly how the trash track works. And I'll unmute it so it's not grayed out and you can have a good idea. All right, so here's something I want to delete. Actually, I'm probably not going to end up deleting it, but for the sake of an example.
August.
Right, I go, oh, I don't like that empty space. So I'm going to hit the hotkey, which is backslash, and it's going to move it down there. And I've also got ripple editing on, so that when I delete this or I move it down, oh, you know what it's not doing? That's funny. I just rebuilt the trash track because this is a computer I don't normally edit on, and I forgot a step. So I'll show you. So what it's going to do, it'll copy, and then I'm going to do delete selected item. Let's see if I can find exactly what I'm looking for. Let's see, delete selected. Oh, funny. That's exactly what I want to have happen. Let's see if there's just something more simple. Delete selected items takes no. Yeah, okay. So we're gonna try this out. See if that works. So copy items, then delete selected items, then select track 10. Okay, let's see if that works. Let's close it, because right now it was just copying it, moving it down. It wasn't actually deleting it. So let's see if that works. I might have broken it though. We're about to find out. Hey, that worked just like I wanted to, except it broke the ripple, which I don't like. Whatever, I'll figure that out later. This won't be the end of the world. All right, so now let's say I don't like this. I will send that to the trash track. And you can see what just happened there was that as soon as it got to the trash track down here, these guys snapped together. So that basically, by the time I'm done with everything, all the trash track is mushed together. I can just shove it to the front of the beginning of the session and then export that as its own thing. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know. All right, so let's get cracking. Let me check and make sure I don't have any questions here. I don't think I do, but I want to make sure. Give me just a second. No questions here, no questions there, and nobody's asked me anything on the live chat on YouTube because nobody's watching. I don't think. Yeah. 0 people watching. But that's okay. All right. Let's do this. So now I am going to hop in and just start going. I'll let you know what I like, what I don't like. If I delete something, I'll let you know exactly why I deleted it. And that'll be that. So again, I do like to edit at 1.6 speed ish, 1.5, 1.65. And let's go.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Echo Base. It's a nice balmy 70, 80, 90 degrees here in August. I really wish we were at Echo Base because it's just way too hot for me. Well, join me tonight with my 2 co-hosts. Chris, how are you tonight?
I am doing so good, Lou.
So good because I called you first? Yeah? Okay, well,
All right, so there's. Let's see.
okay, well,
That way, like, I was sitting here waiting to see if you would remember that, and you did, and it makes me so proud.
you first? Yeah? Okay, well,
That way, like, I was sitting here waiting to see if you would remember that, and you did, and it makes me so proud.
Okay, so this is awkward. So what I'm gonna do is go
so good because I called you first? Yeah?
there, go
That way, like, I was sitting here. That way, like, I was.
go there, and trash track.
Yeah?
That way, like, I was sitting here waiting to see if you would remember that, and you did, and it makes me so proud.
Okay, well,
Despite your old age, your memory is still
oh,
alive.
you had to go there. You know, just because I wrote it down, you know, ask Chris first. You know, no, I didn't write it down. I remember. Come on. Jeez.
Alright. Awkward.
Remember, come on.
So go here, here, send to the trash track.
Come on. Jeez. Making sure you're outside the shield wall tonight.
Alright, and one other thing I'm gonna do is go into options, and what I want is auto crossfade. That's not on.
Remember, come on. Jeez. Making sure
There we go. Cool.
you're outside the shield wall tonight. The other voice you heard was the shield wall tonight. The other voice you heard was Tim. Tim,
Alright, don't want that. Kill that.
wall tonight. The other voice you heard was Tim. Tim, how are you?
I'm doing pretty decent.
You're sad they didn't call on you first?
Another little gap there. Kill.
You're sad they didn't call on you first?
No, I see. I'm okay with that.
See, yeah, see. See, yeah, see.
Click. Don't want to click.
See, yeah, see, someone's an adult.
Wow.
Let's make sure that sounds okay.
No, I see. I'm okay with that.
See, yeah, see, someone's an adult.
Wow.
He called me old.
That's,
He started
that's, that's true. That's okay. But both of
Okay.
you go to corners. Go to your rooms.
Okay,
Another little click right there. Kill that.
rooms.
okay.
I got this show. Later, guys.
Okay, good. I'm out. Time for bed. See ya. Okay, so there hasn't been a ton of really exciting news, I guess, but
Alright, so we'll go.
a ton of really exciting news, I guess, but we
Yeah,
got
I'm gonna leave that there because that sounds natural enough that if I tried to edit that, it would just sound unnatural.
a ton of really exciting.
But I'll kill a little bit of that dead space.
Of really exciting news, I guess, but we got a few pieces here that Tim scoured the internets for us, and Tim scoured the internets for us, and kind of jotted some things down here.
Yeah. We also have some listener emails.
Alright, the gap.
Things down here.
Yeah. We also have some listener emails, which is exciting stuff.
We do. We're gonna get to that shortly.
That's like a whole show itself.
We're making you read those, Chris. Let's see. First off, you guys are fans of the Freemaker Adventures from Lego?
Alright, we got a triple so let's figure out what we can do here.
Things down here.
Yeah. We also have some listener emails.
Let's see. First off, you guys are fans of the Freemaker Adventures from Lego?
Alright, we'll start with this first split the track there. Send that to the trash track.
Can you read those, Chris? Let's see. First off, you guys.
Alright, so I need he ends his with the beginning of let's.
Let's see. First off,
Alright, so we'll do that.
let's see. First off, you guys are fans of
Let's keep that middle but kill that
you guys are fans of the Freemaker Adventures from Lego?
Yep, doesn't sound good. Now let's bring this back down to actual speed to make this edit a little better.
You guys are fans of the Freemaker Adventures from Lego?
Alright, let's try that.
Fans of the Freemaker Adventures?
Nope, don't like that either. Let's sometimes getting rid of an just can't happen.
Fans of the Freemaker Adventures from
Cool. I like that. That sounds fine. So right there.
fans of the Freemaker Adventures from Lego?
No.
Let's make sure that sounds natural.
First off, you guys are fans of the Freemaker Adventures from Lego?
Yep, that passes. Let's bring it back up to 1.6.
No.
No,
I've actually never seen it.
I should know, but I asked Chris. Hey, Chris, are you reading Inferno Squad?
No.
Yeah.
Alright. Kill a little bit of that gap there.
Hey, Chris, are you reading Inferno Squad?
No.
Yeah.
Chris, you like Star
Actually,
Wars?
I saw Freemaker Adventures on last night, and I was like, I could watch this, but then I would feel like Derek because he loves it, and I'm just not going to because I don't want to be like him.
Wow.
I can watch this, but no, I'm not gonna. Boy, that's a Star Wars fan for you.
See, and that might be a record for Derek to get mentioned this early in a show.
I know it's only like 5
Had
minutes
to
in.
get rid of it,
Yeah.
or had to get it out of the way.
Get out of the way.
No, I like Freemaker.
Alright, another gap there I want to kill.
Get out of the way.
No, I like Freemaker Adventures. It's not something that I like. I can't say I've seen every episode of it, but I do watch it if I see it. They're kind of doing a marathon of it, or
Let's see if I can kill this.
but I do watch. But I do watch it if I see it.
Nope. Not gonna get that one. That's okay. kill all the ums, it makes them less human.
Doing a marathon of it, or yeah, if I just see it playing or I see them doing a marathon, one episode, multiple episodes, whatever, I'll oftentimes stop and watch it. It's a fun show. I enjoy it. It's a fun show. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I think anything Lego does is pretty good. So, and like you, I can't say I've watched every.
It's a fun show. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I think anything Lego does is pretty good. So, and like you, I can't say I've watched every episode. And like you, I can't.
Okay, that I can kill.
And like you, I can't say I've. So, and like you, I can't say I've watched every episode faithfully, but what I've seen, I've loved. But every episode faithfully, but what I've seen, I've loved. So,
All right, another crossfade there.
faithfully, but what I've seen, I've loved. So, watch every episode faithfully, but what I've seen, I've loved. So, I will try to get back into that. And of course, new episodes are returning tonight, which will be like a week later from people listening to it now. So, night, which will be like a week later. Which will be like a week later from people listening to it.
Sometimes you can't tell the difference between a and a you know. They serve the same purpose.
Returning tonight, which will be like a week later from which will be like.
Let's see.
Episodes are returning tonight, which will be like a week later from.
That isn't
Which will be like a week later from.
Let's kill it. Dead.
Night, which will be like a week later from. Which will be like a week. New episodes are returning tonight, which will be like a week later from people listening to it.
Nope, that's one I can't kill without it sounding unnatural, so I'm leaving it in.
Night, which will be like a week later from people listening to it now. So, sorry for the delay.
Yeah.
But
August 1st. That's tonight, right now. First. That's tonight, right now. This
see, now you're gonna make me look bad, because now when it comes out on August 15th, people are like, why did it take Lou 15 days to edit the show? You know, so that's the. Okay, we'll recover from that one. Okay, we'll recover from that one. A bit of news about that, though.
All right, kill that.
A bit of news about that, though. John Ratzenberger is news about that, though. John Ratzenberger.
Let's see if I can add a little bit. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll copy and paste space in to make something work.
News about that, though. John Ratzenberger is
Let's see. Let's bring that in. Bring that in. Bring that in.
news about that, though. John Ratzenberger
There we go.
is redoing his role for a major.
Okay. Oops. Trash that. Trash that.
Is redoing his.
And then bring that there. Bring that in.
Is redoing his role for Major Drillin.
Cliff.
Though John Ratzenberger is redoing his role for Major Drillin.
Cliff.
Don't think anyone's gonna notice it. All right, let's keep going.
Cliff.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I know. Hey, Cliffy.
All right.
Drillin.
Cliff.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I know. Hey, Cliffy. That's awesome. No.
There.
Hey, Cliffy. That's awesome. No, I'm glad he's doing that.
Click there. Let's go here. Here.
I'm glad he's doing that.
I think it's cool that he's still in the loop here. If he's still. I think it's cool that he's still in. I think it's cool that he's still in the loop here.
Okay, let's go back down to the normal editing speed.
It's cool that he's still.
Let's go.
Cool that he's still in the loop here. If folks remember Major Derlin from the original trilogy, the original trilogy, the mustachioed man on the original trilogy.
I don't like. If I can kill a repeated word, I will too. Or like stuttering, I'll try and kill.
The original trilogy, the mustachioed man on Echo Base,
Big old
and on Echo Base. Yeah, so he's
It
gonna
was
be
one of those things where
kill the yeah.
on Echo Base, so he's
It
going
was
to be.
one of those things where when I saw that as a kid, I was like, I know who that is, but who is that? You know, it was one of those things.
Oh yeah, because it's totally out of context.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Killed.
Of context.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's. I think it's kind of cool to see actors do that, even if it's just a little bit of a cameo, and you
Let's go back up.
do that, even if it's just a little bit of a cameo, and you recognize them from another show or something like that. So, I think it's pretty good.
Yep. No, I agree.
Or something like that. So,
Kill that.
show or something like that. So,
Yep. No, I agree. Kind of like having James Bond in a Stormtrooper outfit.
exactly. Although we didn't really get to see him, but
I know. Damn it. I know. Damn it. Let's see. Speaking of other stuff that borrows the. Let's see. Speaking of other stuff.
All right, I'm gonna keep that because it kind of is like it's a vocal change. It's kind of like a transition. If that makes any sense.
I know. Damn it. Let's see. Speaking of other stuff that borrows the Star Wars universe for their video.
Another triple
Borrows the. Let's see. Speaking of other stuff that borrows the Star Wars universe for their video for their video. Wars universe for their.
Actually, we're gonna kill because he repeats there.
Star Wars universe for their video.
Okay, so split there, and that should take care.
Star Wars universe for their video. It seems like the
Yep, and then kill the
It seems like the relationship between. It seems like the relationship between Disney and the Robot Chicken people is changing. The Robot Chicken people is Disney and the Robot Chicken people is changing a little bit. Back when it was George Lucas running the show, he welcomed the on the show. He welcomed the satire stuff that Robot Chicken did wholeheartedly, and that Robot Chicken did satire stuff that Robot Chicken did wholeheartedly, and I guess now with Disney, wholeheartedly, and I guess now with Disney it's a little bit different. Wholeheartedly, and I guess now with Disney it's a little bit different.
Make sure that sounds natural at normal speed.
Wholeheartedly, and I guess now with Disney it's a little bit different. And I guess now with Disney it's a little bit different.
Nope, don't like it. We're gonna leave that in there.
Wholeheartedly, and I guess now with
But we'll kill that breath.
wholeheartedly, and I guess now with Disney it's a little bit different. You know, it's a little bit more of a professional.
Oops. Oh, so this thing, auto mute. This was an issue last live stream. Let me show you what it is. It bothered me, but once I figured out what it was, it didn't bug me. So, in preferences, you can search for specific words, and I searched for auto, and I went fine, and I clicked through, a few different things, blah, 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 and eventually, in audio, I found automatically mute any track when volume exceeds 18 dB. So what's happening, and I didn't know this was even a thing in Reaper until yesterday. What's happening is there's some kind of a pop or click, and I expect it's because I'm editing quickly at 1.6 speed. There's just kind of a weird glitch. If anything hits plus 18 dB, it'll automatically mute it, and I won't hear it. Which, now that I know about, is cool, because, I mean, I don't want to blow out with a plus 18 click. So if it goes auto mute, that's why. It's just some weird, because just an edit, something's glitching and causing a click that goes plus 18 dB, which is crazy. All right, let's keep going.
You know, it's a little bit more of a professional atmosphere, so it's a little tougher to do these kind of things.
Yeah, it's almost like they don't want to take any risks. Right. Right.
I knew he was going to go there. No, you're absolutely right, Chris. I mean, this is one way that they're kind of closing off some of the, I don't want to say fan film stuff because it's not really a fan film, but, fans doing things. And people that make Robot Chicken are fans of Star Wars. I mean, why would you do this if you weren't a fan of it? I mean, no one's doing these things to poke fun at something that they're really trying to beat down. They're poking fun because they love it.
yeah, and things like the Robot Chicken episode.
Let's kill that. Yeah.
because they love it.
Yeah, and things like the Robot Chicken episodes, the Family Guy episodes. Yes, they were parodies. They were fun. Yes, they were. Yes, they were parodies. They were fun. They definitely fun. They definitely poked fun at Star Wars, but they definitely poked fun. They definitely poked fun at Star Wars, but they were also very unique. Homages to Star Wars. Very unique. Very unique homages to Star Wars and to the tropes in it and the characters and all that stuff. And George Lucas loved it. Lucas opened up. Lucas opened up. From what I've heard, Lucas has opened. From what I've heard, Lucas has opened up his files to these folks. Lucas opened up.
Another repeated phrase there, so I'm gonna kill that.
From what I've heard, Lucas has opened up his file. His files to these. Lucas has opened up his files to these. Has opened up his files to these folks in both Robot Chicken and both Robot Chicken and both Robot Chicken and both Robot Chicken. To these folks in both Robot Chicken and in Family Guy, and allowed them to use sound effects and all this other stuff without jumping through any licensing hoops. And it was really cool. And as a fan of both, I definitely appreciated it. Of both, I definitely appreciated it. Of both, I definitely appreciate. Fan of both, I definitely appreciated it. Disney is definitely taking. Disney is definitely taking more of a corporate approach with it. I think that if it were up with it, I think that if it were up to Lucasfilm proper, and I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I think Lucasfilm would be pretty okay with it, with doing things as they had in the past. But Disney, for as large as they are very. But Disney, for as large as they are very protective of their properties. So there's definitely this very.
Oh, see, there's another weird pop.
So there's definitely this very corporate perspective that they're taking, which hopefully they will still allow this stuff to happen. There's nothing that we're reading that says that they're denying requests. It's just slower going and more bureaucratic.
Exactly. I mean, Disney.
Just slower going and more bureaucratic.
Exactly. I mean, Disney is a big company, no doubt about it. Much bigger than Lucasfilm. Much bigger than Lucasfilm. No doubt about it. Much bigger than Lucasfilm. So they're going to protect everything they have. I mean, they paid, what was the number they paid Lucas for Lucasfilm?
Over $4 billion.
Yeah, it was a lot of money. And you want to protect that. And I guess I don't understand why they don't see that people that are doing things with Star Wars going forward, have a love for it like we do. I mean, I'm not talented enough to make something like Robot Chicken or the Family Guy stuff, but, if I was, I would be definitely doing it. I mean, this is.
Let's kill that breath.
The Family Guy stuff, but if I was, I would be definitely doing it. I mean, this is fun stuff to do.
Mm-hmm. Do they still do the fan film awards?
That's a good question.
Gosh,
how about?
I thought they did them for Celebration, didn't they?
Look,
this is one of those places where pauses are necessary, but I'm still gonna shorten them just a little.
I thought they did them for Celebration, didn't they?
Look that up and confirm whether or not they still do it. Well, I say this, whether or not they still do it. Well, I say this. I think that, protecting, a franchise like Star Wars is important, especially when you pay, a franchise.
I treat, like I was saying earlier, I treat like ums.
Protecting a franchise like Star Wars is important, especially when you paid so much money to buy the company that it's based off of. But, there are a lot of people, I'm sure, who got into Star Wars because of Family Guy or Robot Chicken. Yeah, a lot of people balked at the idea of Star Wars Detours, which was Star Wars Detours, was made by the same people as Robot Chicken, I think. But there's a point where I guess there's a point where I guess they don't want to I guess they I guess they don't, yeah, I guess they don't want to take away from the to want to don't want to they don't want to I guess they don't want to take away from the hype. They don't want to, yeah, I guess they don't want to take away from the hype of the movies and like things like Star Wars Rebels or something. But yeah, you can prevent fatigue and or something. But yeah, you can.
Sometimes when there's enough space, like right here, there's what? That's 35 seconds. 2.5 seconds.
Rebels or something. But yeah, you can.
There's enough of a transition that it doesn't sound right to bring these two right next to each other.
But yeah, you can.
It sounds very clear, like when he says this.
Yeah, you can.
He just took a breath and started a new phrase.
Something, but
so I'm gonna let the breath stay.
Rebels or something, but
I'm gonna kill that.
Rebels or something, but yeah, you can prevent. Yeah, you can.
There's another repeated phrase.
Yeah, you can prevent.
Let's shorten that a hair. Bring that there.
Yeah, you can prevent fatigue and Star Wars fatigue. And
make sure that sounds natural here at normal.
Yeah, you can prevent fatigue.
Sounds good. Bring it back up to 1.6.
Fatigue and Star Wars fatigue, and that's something we'll get to later in the episode. But
and again, let's zoom out and look what's happening with the trash track. All right, so at the very beginning, so you can see all the edits I've made so far and everything I've taken out. Let's listen to what I got so far.
Okay,
it's all the trash track is.
Lucas opened up his.
It's just fun to listen to. That's the only reason it exists. It's just funny to me. All right. So it's crazy to look back at this and see how many edits I've already made in not even 8 minutes yet, and we have how much farther to go? Crazy. So you can continue to watch this live stream, and you'll be able to see every edit I make. But this is essentially it for the next 40 minutes, and then I'm going to add in the intro, the outro. I'm going to go over what I do for mastering. In fact, I'll give you a little sneak peek of that right now. So I'm going to add this multi-brand compressor here.
And like things like Star Wars.
Let me make sure you can see this. You can. Okay, cool. So you can see I'm affecting it, but let's hit play real quick.
Hype of the movies and like things like Star Wars Rebels or something. But yeah, you can prevent fatigue and Star Wars fatigue, and that's something we'll get to later in the episode. But
the point of this,
but you can prevent things like that, but still
gentle.
Let little fan creations like this happen, because it's not like
just,
they're making money off of
the mids
off of
just
this.
A
It's
little
not
bit.
like they're.
I cut out a lot of the low end to begin with when I have the 3 tracks, so it's not going to do a ton to the low end. And if I notice really harsh S's or anything like that, I might bring the 4th band down, which is everything from 4,000 and up. After that, I will hit the limiter. So I will right now.
Hype of the movies and like things like Star Wars Rebels or something. 18, but yeah, you can prevent fatigue and Star Wars fatigue, and that's something we'll get to later in the episode. But but you can prevent things like that, but
right
still
here.
Let little fan creations like this happen, because it's not like they're making money off of this. It's not like they're using it.
That's probably where it's going to end up being. Then I have the loudness analyzer right here, which is going to tell me the loudness units, which are different than dBs. And I'm going to want it to end up usually the integrated, which is essentially long term. So you have the short term. I'd have to look at how many seconds it's counting. It might be like 3 seconds or 5 seconds or something like that. And you have the momentary, which is loudness units, live essentially. And then you have the short term, which is 3 or 5 seconds, and then you have integrated, which I don't know how long it is. Maybe it's a minute or whatever. The average, right? And then I have my range, which is my dynamics, right? So the quietest part to the loudest, and that's also what Dynameter's for. And this is showing me everything it's done so far. And if you want to learn about how Dynameter works, head to meterplugs.com. Ian Shepard's plugin, it's amazing. You don't want a ton of dynamics with a podcast, because it's voices. You want everyone to be heard clearly. But at the same time, I don't want to, if it's an hour long, I don't want to make people tired of listening to it. So I do want some dynamics. And that's why my PSRs, I aim for a 9. And, yeah. So anyways, that's that. And at the end of this, I'll actually start to do stuff. So if you're watching the live stream now and you're like, I don't want to watch this dude edit for the next 40 minutes, then don't. You can either come back in 40 minutes, which my time's going to be about 11:30, or this is just going to be up forever, or until YouTube goes out of business, or I decide to delete it, whatever. With that said, let's keep going.
Fatigue and Star Wars fatigue, and that's something we'll get to later in the episode, but with something else, but you can prevent things like that in the episode, but with something else, but you can prevent things like that, but still let little fan creations like this happen. Because it's not like little fan creations like let little fan creations like this happen. Because it's not like they're making money off of not like they're making money off of this. It's not like they're using it for they're making money off of this. It's not like off of they're making money off of this. It's not like they're it's not like
We'll try that. See what happens.
money off of this. It's not like off of this. It's not like they're using it for making a complete ripoff of it, using it for or making a complete ripoff of it. They're parodying a complete ripoff of it. They're making a complete rip making a complete ripoff of it. A complete ripoff of it. They're parodying a franchise that we all love, and a franchise that we parodying a franchise that we all love, and a franchise that we all love, and some of the best things of, and some of the best things, and some of the best things are some of the best jokes came from the best jokes came from the trilogies are some of the best jokes came from the best jokes came from we all love, and some of the best jokes came from love, and some of the best jokes came from some of the best jokes came from some of the best jokes came from and some of the best jokes came from and some of the best jokes came from the trilogies jokes came from the trilogies from years ago, and I would like the trilogies from years ago, and I would like to trilogies from years ago, and I would like to see them make fun of the new stuff too. And the fact it's difficult for that to happen is actually kind of sad. Is actually kind of sad because difficult for that to happen is actually kind of sad because it's really talented people that, like you said, love Star Wars.
I mean, I guess I would have a problem if I was Disney and they wanted to have an unknown do something like this and came to me and say, hey, I'm going to do this. Can I do that? And they'd be like, yeah, we don't know what you've done. You've never done anything before, so why am I going to let you do this? But if someone like, McFarlane this, but if someone why am I going to let you do this? But if someone like, McFarlane comes to me and says, hey, McFarlane comes to me and says, hey, I'd like to do a parody of your stuff like I've done before. it should be like, yeah, go right ahead. I've done before. It should be like, yeah, go right ahead. You know, there's a track record there, there's a track record there, and you know, there's a whole little record there, and you know, there's a whole little phrase that, you know, there's no such thing as bad publicity. I mean, they're not. They're not going to make it so that it's so bad that no one's going to watch it or want to watch the Star Wars stuff. I mean, they've got a best interest in making the right stuff too. So I hope this does change. Like Tim said, I hope that Star Wars stuff. I mean, they've got a best interest in making the right stuff too. I hope this does change too. So I hope this does change. Like Tim said, I hope that things do loosen up as they go forward and they get better. You know, about agreeing to. They get better about agreeing. About agreeing to things and so forth. And maybe this is some of the fact that now that Lucasfilm has to go through, you know, the parent to say yes or no to something. The parent to say go through the parent to say yes or no to something.
Yeah.
That's probably what's causing the slowdown. But before it used to be, oh yeah, go right ahead, do it. You know, now it's let me talk to daddy and see if they say it's okay to do it. And I'll go ahead and do that. So
yeah.
And I'll go ahead and do that. So and I'll go ahead and do that. So it's okay to do it. And I'll go ahead and do that. So and I'll go ahead and do that. Okay to do it, and I'll go ahead and do that. So
see if that sounds natural.
Okay to do it, and I'll go ahead and do that. So
Yep.
And do that. So
yeah. As far as I know, they are still doing the Fan Film Awards. I have. As far as I know, they are still doing. As far as I know, they are.
Do it, and I'll go ahead and do that. So
yeah. As far as I know, they are still doing the Fan Film Awards. I have off of the StarWars.com website. We have the 26. Website. We have the 2016 list of winners here. I have not seen any winners here. I have not seen anything yet for 2017. So I do hope that that's something that they announce soon. And actually, as I'm looking, that's something that they announce soon. And actually, as I'm looking through the 20 announced soon. And actually, as I'm looking through the 2016 ones, I remember watching all of them. And they're really all of them, and they're really great. There's some terrific ones in there. So if folks aren't familiar with them, go to StarWars.com. Go to StarWars.com. Just do a quick search for Fan Film Awards. And you will see them in there. And there's some really you will see them in there. And you will awards, and you will see them in there. And there's some really great ones. You've got things that kind of in the classical style of Troops. If you remember Troops from classical style of Troops, if you remember Troops from 15 or 20 years ago,
yeah.
Where it's live.
Yeah.
Where it's live action stuff, and people in some action stuff, and people in some really great costumes, 501st level costumes, Rebel Legion, that kind of stuff. Level costumes, Rebel 501st level costumes, Rebel Legion, that kind of stuff. There's also some animation in here. There's some stop action stuff. There's also some animation in here. There's also some animation. It's a
clicking sound. Where did I just go to? Zoom in and figure out what the click is.
First, there's also some animation. There's also some animation in here. There's also some animation in.
Ugh, that's annoying. What is the click?
There's also some animation.
I might not find it.
There's also some animation. There's also some animation in.
Sure, let's try that.
First, there's also some animation in here. There's some stop action stuff. There's some really neat. There's some stop action here. There's some stop action stuff. There's some really neat things. So definitely check them out. They're worth watching.
Cool.
Check them out. So definitely check them out. They're worth watching. They're worth watching.
Cool. Let's see. We did have some confirmation.
All right, there's another transition.
Worth watching.
Cool. Let's see. We did have some confirmation of new actors in the Han Solo movie. And of new actors in the Han Solo.
Let's kill the breath.
New confirmation of new actors in the Han Solo movie. We have Spencer Wilding and Warwick Davis of movie. We have Spencer. We have Spencer Wilding and Warwick Davis have joined the cast now.
Another pop.
Wilding and Warwick Davis have joined the cast now. Do we know Wilding and Warwick Davis have joined the cast now? Wilding and Warwick Davis have joined the cast now.
All right, hang on. Pause for a second. Oop, you can hear my phone. Oh, sorry about that break.
Wilding and Warwick Davis have joined the cast now. Do we know what they're doing in this movie? Do we know what join the cast now? Do we know what they're doing in this movie?
We do not.
I know Spencer did the Darth Vader in Rogue One. He was the guy in the suit. But
and I definitely would not expect him to be reprising the role of Darth Vader in this film.
yeah, suit.
And I definitely would not expect him to be reprising the role of Darth him to
Not a sound we need.
expect him to be reprising the role of Darth Vader in this film.
Yeah, I hope not. Yeah, I do not think so.
I mean, I'm guessing that. I mean, I'm guessing.
We don't need either of these. Oops. Whoops. I guess that's what happens when I try and delete two selected items with my trash track. It don't work. Oh, come on, really? Okay, all the way back. Let's delete this one first, then this one. There we
I think so.
I'm guessing
Then
that.
I would expect Warwick is not being a Ewok again.
No, probably not. Probably not. Although I mean, he's pretty darn prolific. He's been in every Star Wars film, hasn't he? Or every one since Jedi.
I think so. Yep.
So yeah, he's work is pretty prolific. Yeah, Spencer Welding. Who knows? Is pretty prolific. Yeah, Spencer Welding. Who knows? I mean, big tall dude. He could be playing a Wookiee. He could be playing some other alien. He could be playing just a big humanoid type of character. I mean, it's an open book character. I mean, it's an open book as far as we're concerned because we just don't know. As far as we're concerned because we just don't know.
And I guess I don't want to know either. I mean, I'll wait to say I am.
No.
And I guess I don't want to know either. I mean, I'll wait to say stay spoiler free on that one. I just don't. I don't want any heads up. I mean, I'm nervous. I don't want any heads up. I mean, I'm definitely gonna try to stay spoiler free on that one. I just don't. I don't want any heads up. I mean, I'm nervous enough about it as it is. I don't want to get heads up on what's coming and who's doing what, and then go, oh, really? I don't really want to see that now.
Yeah.
I'll be happy without knowing anything. And I think Chris feels the same way because Chris is being very.
Yeah.
I'll be happy without knowing anything. And I think Chris feels the same way because Chris is being very quiet.
Very quiet.
Yes, I do. I'm just like,
I mean, you feel exactly the same way I do about the Han Solo movie, so
yeah, and I am hopeful that I go into this having seen the trailers like a couple times. Just not because I hate Star Wars before someone says it. It's because I legitimately want, and yeah, that's part of the reason too why I'm staying so low on the whole last Jedi hype. Like, I just want to go and watch the movie without any really, preconceived expectations of what's going to happen. Expectations of what's going to happen, because I think that's why I enjoyed TFA so much upon my first and second viewing. But after that, it just really fell from the rankings, or it fell from the top.
Yeah.
Onto my ranking. After that, it just really fell from the rankings. Really fell from the rankings, or it fell from the top. Really fell from the top.
Yeah.
Just really fell from the top.
Yeah.
Onto my rankings.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're always better off going into a movie without having all the things spoiled. I mean, the director wanted to surprise you with some things, and by searching out and knowing it all, you're taking a lot of that away. And I found you're taking a lot of that away, and you're taking a lot of that away. 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 taking a lot of that away, and you're taking a lot of that away, and not knowing it all, you're taking a lot of that away, and not knowing it all, you're taking a lot of that away, knowing it all, you're taking a lot of that away, and I found.
Let's listen at normal speed.
Out and knowing it all, you're taking a lot of that away, and I found.
I don't like that.
You know, you're taking a lot of that away. By searching out and knowing it all, you're taking a lot of that away, and I found
that's okay.
I found I had a much better appreciation for TFA than people that had the big event spoiled for them.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I stayed spoiler free, but I did. Spoiler free, but I did.
And Lou actually goes fully to the extent with this. He was totally floored and shocked when he saw Titanic. I mean, he is very committed to this. He saw Titanic. I mean, he is very committed to this no spoiler thing. Very committed.
I am. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so more good news for Star Wars stuff coming up.
A little bit of that guy.
I am. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so more good news for Star Wars stuff coming up. Episode 9 is getting a rewrite. Episode 9 is getting. Episode 9 is getting. Coming up, Episode 9 is getting a rewrite, a new writer. That doesn't worry anybody, right?
No, and I'll tell you why.
Another glitch pop.
A rewrite, a new writer. That doesn't worry anybody, right?
No, and I'll tell you why. Because it happened to the other ones. And no, and I'll tell you why. Because it happened to the other ones. And this is just like something that happens in movies. Like, and this is just like something that happens in movies. Like, people write first drafts and.
Yep. There's always a first draft, a second draft, and a working script, and then things get changed. Yeah, no, totally normal for a movie. Totally. Yeah, no, totally normal for a movie.
Like people were like.
For a movie.
Like people were like TFA was a little different because Lucasfilm made a big deal about saying, "Oh yeah, we got rid of Michael Arndt," and Lucasfilm made a big deal about saying, "Oh yeah, we got rid of Michael Arndt, and now we have JJ and Lawrence doing this." But I think this is just like, "Oh yeah, we got the writer."
Yeah.
Doing this, but I think this is just like, "Oh yeah, we got the writer."
Yeah.
We got the writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just an additional. I mean, there's films get so many.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just an additional. I mean, there's films get so many writers, and they go through so many drafts of big picture stuff. And
yeah.
Yeah, this is just an additional. I mean, there's films get so many.
Let's just kill that.
Yeah.
Films get so many writers, and they go through so many drafts of big picture stuff, and then script and all that, and it's kind of non-news in the greatest sense, and it's and all that, and it's kind of non-news and all that, and it's kind of non and all that, and it's kind of non-news in the greatest sense, but obviously, hey, we're here to talk about Star Wars. But obviously, greatest sense, but obviously, hey, we're here to talk about Star Wars, and there's this movie that's going to be coming out in a couple years. This one's episode 9. In a couple years, this one's episode 9. In a couple years. In a couple years, this one's episode 9.
I'm not
in a couple
kill the because Lou comes in about right here.
In a couple years, in a couple years.
Yep.
Episode 9. So yeah, they added another writer. The article that we're 9. So yeah, they added another writer. The article that we're looking at here in Hollywood Reporter. No one got canned. No one left. No one got fired. They simply added another writer, and they even say in there, I think the quotes from Colin Trevorrow saying we wanted another set of eyes. So that's a normal thing. It happens. The new writer, by the way, is the new writer, by the way, is Jack Thorne, who is apparently a British writer. I'm not familiar with him, but he has Thorne, who is apparently a British writer. I'm not familiar with him, but he has written an upcoming Julie Roberts film. Familiar with him, but he has written an upcoming written an upcoming Julie Roberts film, Wonder, and Roberts film, Wonder, and he has just recently been brought on for Star Wars, and he has just recently been brought on for Star Wars Episode 9. Star Wars Episode 9. For Star Wars Episode 9. So.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. The article that we're talking from here is a Hollywood Reporter article, and in this article that's new.
9.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. The article.
All right, so out of curiosity, let's see how much I've shaved off so far. Can you believe that's all the edits I've made? It's ridiculous. So I have already shaved off 3 minutes of ums, which is crazy. Okay, real quick, let's check and make sure. I don't got any questions. Nope, no questions there. Any questions on Raptum chat? I don't think so. Any questions on the Facebook? I don't think so. Cool. Let's get back to editing. All right.
Star Wars Episode 9.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. The article that we're talking from here is a Hollywood Reporter article, and there's really nothing in this article that's new.
Yeah.
I mean, it says this me rewrite, says who he is and what he's done, like he just said. The one quote from Trevorrow, and then it goes into quote from Trevorrow, from Trevorrow, and then it goes into from Trevorrow, and then
Double from.
the one quote from Trevorrow, and then it goes into one quote from
Let's see.
the one quote from Trevorrow, and then it goes into
Ugh, oh gosh. Okay. What's going on here? Let's go back to normal speed.
the one quote from Trevorrow, and then the one quote from Trevorrow,
Oh, it's a triple from.
the one quote from Trevorrow, and then it goes into from Trevorrow, and then
Okay, so let's kill that.
one quote from Trevorrow, and then
There
it
we
goes
go.
into stuff about the last. It goes into stuff about the Last Jedi. The Ryan Johnson
Back up to 1.6 speed.
wrote and directed it, and then who the actors were in The Force Awakens, and the movie's coming out on May 24th, 2019, and then I'm like, there's really one sentence in this whole article that's like news, and the rest of it is not. I'm like, you're just creating this fluff thing to put out here, but I guess it gets clicks and it got us talking about it. So, but I guess it
Don't like that breath.
out here, but I guess it gets clicks and it got us talking about it. So,
Welcome to the Hollywood Reporter.
exactly. But
Another breath I don't like.
exactly. But when I read that and say it out loud that the movie is scheduled to be released May 24th, 2019, that sounds so far away.
Yes, it does.
2019. Oh
Yes,
boy.
it does.
Oh
Yes,
boy.
it does.
Okay, so there's an oh boy, so I'm gonna keep that breath.
Oh
Yes,
boy.
it does.
18. Oh
Yes,
boy.
it does.
Okay, let's see. Where are we here? Well, I guess we'll jump into our discussion. I saw that.
Alright, so let's kill that whole section there. Alright,
Yes, it does.
2019. Oh
Yes,
boy.
it does.
Well, I guess we'll jump into our discussion. I saw this note that Tim had put in here and followed the article to it, and I was like,
so this I'm leaving in
discussion. I saw
because he just ends his sentence with it, and it's like
discussion.
it's like he says discussion, and he just is like an extension of that word. So if I delete that it's gonna sound weird, so I'm gonna leave it.
We'll jump into our discussion. I saw this note that Tim had put in here and followed the article to it, and I was like, what? Well, the article, where was this from, Tim? Well, the article, where was this from, Tim? What was the
New York Post.
New York Post?
Big
Says
time
Ribbon
news. Big
Says
time
Ribbon
news.
New York Post.
Big
Says
time
Ribbon
news.
New York Post.
This is not the Hollywood Reporter. This is big time news.
This is not fake news. Yeah, this is real stuff. The title of the article is Star Wars. The title of the article is this is real stuff. The title of the article. Yeah, this is real stuff. The title of the article is Star Wars toy fatigue may finally be setting in.
That sounds
Real stuff. The title of the article. The title of the yeah, this is real stuff. The title of the article is Star Wars toy fatigue may finally be setting in. And I read that, I'm like, what are you talking about? I can't even finally be setting in. And I read that, I'm like, what are you talking about? I can't even find the toys on the shelf. And I read that, I'm like, what are you talking about? I can't even find the toys on the shelf. That was my
I think
first
that's
reaction.
the point.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I want them. I mean, it's not fatigue. It's just they're not out there. It's not. They're not
Well,
making
there's
enough.
the point.
Yeah, but no, I mean, I want them. I mean, it's not fatigue. It's just they're not out there. It's not. They're not
Well,
making enough.
there's okay.
I mean, it's not fatigue. It's just they're not out there. It's not. They're not
Well,
making enough.
okay. So
I mean,
look,
to me,
here's-
if it was fatigue, there'd be just tons of things swinging from the pegs that no one's buying.
that's the point. Like, I went to Target recently. They had all of the Rogue One stuff on clearance. Rogue One isn't the last, like, wave of stuff that we had. We've had, like, the last wave of stuff that we had. We've had, like, 40th anniversary Star Wars stuff. I've yet to see any of it. yet to see any of it.
Oh, I agree.
And I think some of it is because that the stuff just isn't selling.
Well,
Like,
see, I'm not sure about that though. I mean, the 40th.
because the stuff just isn't selling.
Well,
Like,
see, I'm not sure about that though. I mean, the
They
40th
can't
anniversary
sell it. They're not
stuff.
putting it on the shelves. And don't get me going on the 40th anniversary stuff. That was the worst.
isn't selling.
Well,
Like,
see, I'm not sure about that though. I mean,
Putting it on the shelves. And don't get me going on the 40th anniversary stuff. That was the worst promotion I've ever seen from a company ever. They just totally flopped on this 40th anniversary thing.
well, part of me is like, well, okay, why should we send your store stuff for 40th anniversary when your other stuff isn't selling either?
Chris is a very contemplative talker, so he often has large gaps between phrases, and I kill them all.
Anniversary when your other stuff isn't selling either.
well, I mean, I don't know. The 40th anniversary stuff I've seen it out there and I've seen it going away because people want it.
Shame on you, Walmart.
I've seen it out there and I've seen it going away because people want it.
Shame on you, Walmart, for not.
I've seen it out there and I've seen it going away because people want it.
Shame on you, Walmart, for not selling the 400 Constable Zuvios you have on your shelf. We know it is our fault for not putting him in the movie, but darn it, you should be selling it.
Well, that's the thing. When I'm thinking about black figures, I'm also thinking about the regular 3 3/4 stuff that you see there for the non, I'll call it the non-collectible stuff if you want to call it that stuff that you see there for the non, I'll call it the non-collectible stuff if you want to call it that. You do see a lot of that, and you see a lot of the same figures. Like they'll stock up on the Jenner shows, and they'll stock up on on the Jenner shows, and they'll stock up on just the main characters, and you don't get a lot of the other stuff up on just the main characters, and you don't get a lot of the other stuff out there, and they're made, but you don't see them. But then when the 40th anniversary stuff comes out, like there was a new set of were they diecast or were they just new set of were they diecast or were they just better sculpts on some of the stuff that were I think they were 3 3/4 40th anniversary stuff, and they were really nice. I saw
Okay, let's figure out what his point is here.
them. But then when the 40th anniversary stuff comes out, shows and I'll stock up on just.
They'll stock up on
But then when the 40th anniversary stuff comes out, like there was a new set of
what?
Jenner shows, and I'll stock up on. Then you see a lot of the same figures. Like they'll stock up on the Jenner shows, and I'll stock up on just the main characters, and you don't get.
The main characters.
But then when the 40th anniversary stuff comes out, like
Okay.
the main characters, and you don't get.
Let's see what happens if I delete this whole section here.
Just the main characters. But then when the 40th anniversary stuff comes out, like there was a new set of.
Cool. I like that more.
Like there was a new set of were they diecast or were they just better sculpts on some of the stuff that were I think they were 3 3/4 40th anniversary stuff, and they were really nice. I saw a few of them out there, and they disappeared quickly.
What the heck did I just...
On just the main characters. But then when the 40th anniversary stuff comes out, like there was a new set of. Better sculpts on some of the stuff that were I think they were 3 3/4 40th anniversary stuff, and they were really nice. I saw a few of them out there, and they just 40th anniversary stuff. 40th anniversary stuff, and they were really nice. I saw a few of them out there. Characters. But then when the 40th anniversary stuff comes out, like there was a new set of.
What the heck just happened? I'm so confused. Okay, try this again.
Just the main characters, and you don't get a lot of the other stuff out there, and they're made, but you don't see them. But then when the 40th anniversary stuff comes out, like there was a new set of were they diecast or were they just better sculpts on some of the stuff that were I think they were 3 3/4 40th anniversary stuff, and they were really nice. I saw a few of them out there, and they disappeared.
Okay, I get what happened now.
Stock up on just the main characters, and you don't get a lot of the other stuff out there, and they're made, but you don't see them. But then when the 40th anniversary stuff comes out, like there was a new set of
I'm just gonna leave this whole thing. I'm trying to edit when I shouldn't.
stuff out there, and they're made, but you don't see them. But then when the 40th anniversary stuff comes out, like there was a new set of were they diecast or were they just better sculpts on some of the stuff that were I think they were 3 3/4 40th anniversary stuff, and they were really nice. I saw 3 3/4 40th anniversary stuff, and they were really nice. I saw a few of them out there, and they disappeared quickly. But the other stuff still stayed. The stuff that nobody's buying. I mean, if you went to Toys R Us, there's a big section of Star Wars things in there, and it's a lot of the same stuff that's been there for the last year that nobody's buying. But the collectible stuff, the stuff that's in limited supply, and I'm sure it's not kids buying it; it's collectors. I'm sure it's not kids buying it. I'm sure it's not kids buying it; it's supply and I'm sure it's not kids buying it; it's collectors. It's people like me, or people even just starting to get into the collecting thing. But that's what's selling. That's what people are looking for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that there are and I will say this because the Black Series stuff is particularly what I tend to pay the most amount of attention to. The popular ones sell. There are unpopular ones amount of attention to. The popular ones sell. There are unpopular ones. Again, Constable Zubio. I maybe 3 people in the world bought it. And Constable Zubio. Maybe 3 people in the world bought it. Beyond that, I just don't know. So yeah, sure, those are still on the shelves. But there is all I just don't know. So yeah, sure, those are still on the shelves. But there is also a measure of them getting the stuff out there. The most recent run of Star Wars Black Series, Lou and I have mentioned this, I think, probably for the last 3 episodes. Recent run of Star Wars Black Series, Lou and I have mentioned this, I think, probably for the Star Wars Black Series. Lou and I have mentioned this, I think, probably for the last Black Series. Lou and I have mentioned this, I think, probably for the last 3 episodes. We've not seen any of it in our areas. None of it. 0. And if it was out there, there are probably 4 figures I would buy right off the bat. The moment I walked in, if I saw them, they're mine. I take them out. I buy them.
I mean, I've been a completist for the Black Series stuff since the TFA stuff came out. I'm not going backward. I'm not going to try to collect all of it because I wouldn't be able to do it. But stuff that's out there, I'm trying to pick it up, and I've put together a little document on my phone. I can look and say, oh no, I have that one. I need this one. And there's some stuff I just have still never seen to this day because if I see it, I buy it. And there's some stuff I just have still never seen to this day because if I see it, I buy it. With the exception of Zuvio. I finally did break down about Zuvio, but if I saw a new one there, I'd be like,
You're the one.
I'm one of the ones. I'm one of the 3. If I see one that I know I don't have that number, I'm like, oh, I got to buy this, and I'll pick it up. One of the 3. If I see one that I know I don't have that number, I'm like, oh, I got to buy this, and I'll pick it up. And there's some that I just have not seen. I got huge holes in my, and I'll pick it up. And there's some that I just have not seen. I got huge holes in my collection. I'm like, why can't I never spot this? And I've seen some of them. I shouldn't say I've never seen them. I've seen all them at Celebration. Swinging on some of the them at Celebration, swinging on some of the, sellers there, but I didn't want the, swinging on some of the, sellers there, but I didn't want to some of the sellers there, but I didn't want to pay, $35-$40 for one. I'm like, I'd rather, have the hunt of it, on the peg in the store for, $19.99 and not, $50 on the peg.
Like a quadruple,
On the peg in the store for, $19.99 and not, $50 for, the one I really need to get. But I mean, how can those things and not $50 for the one I really need to get? But I mean, how can those things be that far away from being available? Be that far away from being available?
Yeah,
I mean, I can see if it was just 1 or 2 I couldn't find.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I'm seeing this stuff sell. I mean, that's you go in the store now. I can go into. Well, I mean, that's you go in the store now. I can go. Sell. I mean, that's you go in the store now. I can go into Walmart or I can go into Toys R Us. I can go into Target, and certainly the areas that they have the Star Wars stuff are smaller than where they were on like Force Friday or whatever, or even around Christmas or something like Friday or whatever, or even around Christmas or something like that. And there's empty pegs. I mean, their stock has pegs. I mean, their stock pegs. I mean, their stock has gone down. So they are selling the stuff, and a lot of the stuff that we see are the characters, the figures, the vehicles, that kind of stuff that just simply aren't that popular. I mean, when you put that volume of stuff out there, inevitably something is going to not be popular and it's not going to sell. So that kind of seems to be what these leftovers are. But infuse the new stuff in, and the new stuff will sell.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. I'm kind of glad you the article to kind of see what they're talking about. They're saying that sales have tapered off after the first half of 2017, and it's putting a slowdown on the entire toy market. I'm not sure why they're blaming Star Wars for that, but it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense that they think this is a slowdown for all of Star Wars. I don't see there being any less demand for Star Wars stuff, especially with new movies coming out.
Yeah.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here and say devil's advocate here and say that I kind of agree with the article, just based on what I've seen. Because first of all, both of you article just based on what I've seen with the article, just based on what I've seen. Kind of agree with the article, just based on what I've seen.
Sounds like he's burping.
Agree with the article, just based on what I've seen, because first of all, both of you guys are looking at it from collector standpoints, and you're only targeting a specific group of things that you buy. In this case, the black of things that you buy. In this case, of things that you buy, in this case the Black Series, which most of the time the Black Series, which most of the time those do sell pretty well. I mean, I think they expected pretty well. I think they expected Rogue One maybe to hit similar strides. I think they expected Rogue One maybe to hit similar strides that TFA did, and now you see a lot of Jins, you see a lot of Cassians, you see a lot of the troopers and whatnot. Because I think that they the troopers and what a lot of you see a lot of the troopers and whatnot. Because I think that they overestimated just how much would actually sell when it's not a saga movie, so it's not going to be as much. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of the the Rogue One stuff setting. But honestly, I think Black Series stuff aside, I think there is a toy fatigue, because you don't see people. First of all, you don't see collectors getting a lot of the non-Black Series stuff, and a lot of it might be because it's just nothing really to collect. But honestly, I also think product quality is a big factor. I know, and Black Series is guilty of this too. Some of the head sculpting is so big factor. I know, and Black Series is guilty of this too. Some of the head sculpting is so bad. Poe Dameron is like my Poe. The only reason I got it is because I couldn't find it anywhere else. And but he looks awful.
Right.
And that's a running joke between the Star Wars collector community, is that Poe's sculpt is going to look bad, and it probably will always look bad. But the smaller figures are even worse, and then you have not just figures, you have the vehicles, and you just have the lightsabers, and it's like, personally, it's the same toys that we've been getting since the prequels. Like, yeah, you're gonna have lightsabers, yeah, you're gonna have the figures, you're gonna have the vehicles, but like there's nothing new. The whole reason why BB-8, the Sphero, sold so well is because it was something new.
Right.
It was cool, but it was something new and unique that you hadn't seen before. And I really think that's what Hasbro needs to start doing, because you're going to get like the Black Series that sell, and you're going to have the kids that want the figures, but like eventually you're going to see this like drop. You're going to see this like drop in sales. I think drop in sales. I think see this like drop in sales. I think I'm even thinking of like, I had a lot of Star Wars figures, especially sales. I think I'm even thinking of like, I had a lot of Star Wars figures, especially from the Star Wars figures, especially from the Episode 2 and 3 era, and in my opinion, they were a lot better than the ones you go buy now. The 3 3/4.
Yeah, I totally get the point about the sculpts, and I totally get the point about the quality of the toys. But take that out of it for a second, because that is a collector voice you're talking about there. Because kids don't care. Kids don't care how.
Click right here. Zoom in. Take care.
Kids don't. You're talking about there, because kids don't care how bad Poe's face looks. Really, it's I'm playing with my figures, and I'm gonna be the Poe character. I've got my action figure here that I'm playing with. So that kind of thing goes forward without regard of how well or poor the figure is. My action figure here that I'm playing with. So that kind of thing goes forward without regard of how well or poor the figure is. Regard of how forward without regard of how well or poor the figure is. The play sets are what I think I don't see a lot of anymore. And that's kind of been the thing that drove a lot of the toy sales back. Is the play sets are what I think I don't see a lot of anymore. And that's kind of been the thing that drove a lot of the toy sales back. When I was a kid, when it was the original movies coming out, was you got the figures, but then you want to get the play set to put them in.
Yes.
You wanted to play with them in that same atmosphere of the movie. Exactly. And I don't see that stuff anymore. So I think Chris was right there talking about you need something different. Well, maybe you need something the same, but bring it back, because we haven't had those in a long time.
I was going to say that, thinking back to the prequel era stuff, personally, like, I loved to play with my Star Wars figures. Like, I didn't need, personally, like, I loved to play with my Star Wars figures. Like, I didn't need like a play set or anything. I could have bought those, because I think I remember they had like a Mustafar play set, which I thought was pretty cool, but I never got it. I was more cool, but I never got it. I was more into the Legos for that kind of like environmental stuff. I never got it. I was more into the Legos for that kind of like environmental stuff. But the I liked having the figures, but my problem there was, because Episode 1, you just had the figures, and like a Jedi, for example, you just had like the movements weren't very they were very restrictive. Like the movements weren't example, you just had the movements weren't very they were very restrictive. Like the legs didn't bend, the arms moved, and then the arms moved. Part where the elbow is also didn't bend. The arms moved, and the bend, the arms moved, and then the part where the elbow is also moved, but that was it. And then they got a little bit better with episode 2 because you could take the lightsabers instead of just being the hilt and the blade all episode 2 because you could take the lightsabers instead of just being the hilt and the blade all attached, you could take them apart. And some of the figures even had magnets, like the hilts themselves were magnets, so you could attach them to the Jedi's belt, which was cool. And I think some of the figures also had a belt, which was cool. And I think some of the figures also had a little bit more movement. There were also some that were restricted as well. But episode 3, in my opinion, had the best figures because I'm pretty sure the...
I am making something.
Best figures...
Glitch. Triggering that auto mute.
Because I'm pretty sure I don't remember if the legs moved, but the arms definitely did. You could remove hands. Something I like. They had the
That's a big thing in Star Wars.
It is, yeah.
Moving hands, yeah.
They had the Obi-Wan and Anakin Jedi figures, and you could remove their right hand, ironically. And Obi-Wan and Anakin Jedi figures, Jedi figures, and you could remove their right hand, ironically, and the hand itself would be just like their right hand, ironically, and the hand itself would be just like an open one, and then it would have one with a lightsaber in it. So you never had to worry about losing your lightsaber like you did with episode 2, where you might have the hilt, but you lost the blade, or you had the blade, but you didn't have the hilt. And so that was nice, and they were my favorites to play with because, that was nice, and they were my favorites to play with because it had the most articulation, but the ones now are just so bland and so boring, and if I was a kid, I would be really disappointed because you can't. If you're a kid with a big imagination like I was, you want a figure that can move and that you can pose and do things with, but that it's just not how they are anymore. And I think, yeah, I mean, trying to look at it not from a collector's point of view, but from a kids, or if I'm buying a parent buying it for my child, it's something they're like, oh, that's cool, but I don't know. Eventually they'll get bored with it really fast, and there's only so many times you can buy your kid the same, and there's only so many times you can buy your kid the same lightsaber that comes out. Or I had a bunch of lightsabers growing up. I had a bunch of lightsaber that comes out. Or I had a bunch of lightsabers growing up. I don't know why my mom bought them all for me, but she did. And there's only
This is a tricky one.
And
the old and dumb. It's not and it's and dumb. So I have to leave it in.
And there's only so many that you can buy, and it's just the same stuff, and it's yeah. It's
See, even when Chris was a child, he didn't like Star Wars. Anybody? See, even when Chris was a child, he didn't like Star Wars. Anybody else? Another lightsaber. This is awesome, Mom. Thank you. It's like, oh no, my lightsaber.
No, I have
Star Wars. Anybody else? Another lightsaber. This is awesome, Mom. Thank you.
Growing up, I don't know why my mom bought them all for me because I wouldn't have bought my kid the same toys over and over and over. But yeah, the same toys over and over and over. But yeah.
Well, I think we'll see maybe a different story when
it's over and over and over.
Well, I think we'll see maybe a different story when Last Jedi comes out because, like you said, Chris, it's a saga movie.
Yeah, the guy says, we're going to see how.
Chris, it's a saga movie.
Yeah, the guy says, we're going to see how, Last Jedi goes because they expect it to do better than Rogue One, but not as good as TFA. And again, I think TFA was like a one-time thing, not with only merchandise, but ticket sales too, and merchandise, but one-time thing, not with only merchandise, but ticket sales too. And we'll see, but I don't know. And we'll see, but I don't know. It's hard to predict what is going to happen.
Well,
we'll see, but it's hard to predict what is going to happen.
Well, it's not that hard to predict. I think it's going to do well.
Going to happen.
Well, it's not that hard to predict. I think it's going to do well. But yeah,
I think we'll see more toys than we did for TFA.
It's going to do well. Yeah,
I think we'll see more toys than we did.
Do well. Yeah,
I think we'll see more toys than we did for TFA in certain areas, and TFA in certain areas, and hopefully it'll be better stocked. Hopefully Hasbro learned the lesson, but I don't think that this is going to do some rejuvenation of toys for Star Wars. I think until Hasbro makes a better product, then collectors just won't buy them anymore. And if they start doing something, buy them anymore. And if they start doing something new, then maybe kids will start buying them too. And if they start doing something more, and they start doing something new, then and they start doing something new, then maybe kids will start buying them too. I would like to find kids that are really into Star Wars toys and ask them, you know, what kind of toys, you know, would you what kind of toys and ask them what kind of toys, you know, would you want from Star Wars, or, you know, do you want a lightsaber? Toys would you want from Star Wars, or, you know, do you want a lightsaber? Do you want a figure? Do you want a vehicle? Do you want like a playset? Because I think that's important too.
Yeah, and I'm sure they do that. I mean, you know, there are playtesting things where they'll bring kids in and, you know, let them here have at it and see which ones they gravitate towards, and whichever toys they play with the most are the ones that kind of make it into the marketing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just, you know, it's funny. You look at this kind of stuff and you think about it, and so, yeah, it's just.
All right, I am gonna be back in about 30 seconds because I just need to use the restroom real quick. Okay, I'm back. Headphone popped out. Let's pop over to, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's pop over to YouTube, Facebook real quick, just to see if anybody has any questions. Still got one person watching, which is great, because this is a heck of a long live stream. All right, let's keep this party going. There we go.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's funny. You look at this kind of stuff and you think about it, and you kind of scratch your head thinking to yourself, why is this so hard to do when you just need to make stuff we want? and it does boggle my mind that it seems like they can never get the mix right. They can never get the, you know, the product set right. It's just, you've been doing this for a long time. It shouldn't be that, you know, the product set right. It's just, you've been doing this for a long time. It shouldn't be that hard. But, you know, we seem like there's some of the new challenge that comes up for these guys.
Yep.
Tim, I'll let you take this next one here. You had a note. Tim, I'll let you take this next. New challenge that comes up. Tim, I'll let you take this next one here. You had a note in here from Heather Antos, or not from her, but about her, and the whole Make Mine milkshake thing. Heather Antos, or not from her. Heather Antos, or not from her, but about her. Here from Heather Antos, or not from her, but about her, and the whole Make Mine milkshake thing.
Yeah. This is something. So our listeners probably remember we had Heather Antos from Marvel Comics. She's an editor for Marvel Comics. We had her on episode 100 here of Echo Base. If you don't remember her on episode 100 here of Echo Base, if you don't remember it, if you didn't listen to it, definitely go back and listen. She was a great. Definitely go back and listen. She was a great guest, and we loved having her. There was a thing that I guess it basically started last week. There was a thing that I guess it basically I guess it basically started last week. You guys ever go out with friends? You guys ever go out with friends, coworkers? Get a drink?
No, never.
I stay home. I don't do anything.
Way to ruin that. Get a drink?
Never.
I stay home. I don't do anything.
Way to ruin
I don't
that,
have friends.
guys.
I don't even have a job. I don't know what you guys are doing.
All right. Anyway, so last week, Heather and a bunch of her coworkers. Heather and a bunch of her coworkers from Marvel Comics happened to go to, I believe it was a local Ben & Jerry's. Her coworkers from Marvel Comics happened to go to, I believe it was a local Ben & Jerry's in New York City, and they got some milkshakes. Pretty innocent thing, rather innocuous. People go for ice cream. Milkshakes, coffee, soda, whatever. Happened to be all females. I think there was, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 people. I think there was, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 people in all that went. And as people often do when they're having a good time together, they kind of take a group picture and we post it up on social media. So far, no problem, right? Nothing abnormal, nothing posted up on social media. So far, no problem, right? Nothing abnormal, nothing strange about people.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, nothing strange about people.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, nothing strange about people going out with people who they enjoy spending time with and taking a picture and sharing that. Apparently, some folks did have some problems with it, and sharing that. Apparently, some folks did have some problems with it, and Heather started getting some measure of harassment from folks on social media. I guess some of this also bled over, and Heather started getting some measure of harassment from folks on social media. I guess some of this also bled over to her Xbox Online. Some measure of harassment from folks on social media. I guess some of this also bled over to her Xbox Online account. Some of this was public. Some of this was through private messaging. We're looking at trolls being trolls. Trolls being trolls. We're looking at some targeted harassment stuff. We're looking at some targeted harassment stuff, sexual harassment types of things, sexual harassment types of things, both against her and the folks who she was with. Everything from kind of fairly personal attacks, to things like statements like Marvel is in decline. When you have people who are doing this, I fail to see how that's related to anything at all. Really unfortunate that this kind of stuff happened, and apparently related to anything at all. Really unfortunate that this kind of stuff happened, and it apparently happened through the weekend. I actually got a little vocal about it on Twitter over the weekend myself. Happened through the weekend.
I don't want to dynamic split the items.
And I actually got a little vocal about it on Twitter over the weekend myself. I was pretty ticked off over it and rather dismayed at humanity for treating people like this. And it doesn't matter, what gender they are, who they work for, like this. And it doesn't matter, what gender they are, who they work for. This is just people having a good time, and there was nothing controversial about it at all. Who they work for. This is just people having a good time, and there was. So somewhere along the line, I believe it was Sunday. Someone started the hashtag of Make Mine Milkshake, and a lot of people are familiar. Marvel's tagline. A lot of people are familiar. Of Make Mine Milkshake, and a lot of people are familiar. Marvel's tagline has been for a long time for Marvel Comics is Make Mine Marvel. Mm-hmm. So someone started this hashtag of Make Mine Milkshake, and it went fairly viral on Twitter. Fairly viral and it went fairly viral on Twitter and made its way around and had a lot of people who were out either taking selfies or taking pictures with friends and family, very often with milkshakes or sometimes with other beverages, sometimes in comic book stores, or in front of their comic book collection at home and that kind of stuff, to show support for Heather, for the folks that she works with at Marvel, and I think folks that she works with at Marvel, and I think largely given the bent of a lot of the comments that were received, the comments that were received, really for women in this industry as a whole. And in fact, one of the cooler things that I saw, I think, was early Monday. As a whole, and in fact, one of the cooler things that I saw, I think, was early Monday, was a couple of ladies who work for DC Comics did a milkshake selfie and put that up and tagged Heather with that, and milkshake selfie and put that up and tagged Heather with that, and that kind of went around. So put that up and tagged Heather with that, and that kind of went around. So I thought that was pretty neat. It was very classy. Selfie and put that up and tagged Heather with that, and that kind of went around. So I thought that was pretty neat. It was very classy.
Yeah, I'm looking at that picture now. I don't know if it's the same one, but it's like 4 rows of people in this huge image. Must be probably 50 people in this image, all with milkshakes. And I think I'm not sure what they're doing. They're all got their arms crossed in front of them. Is this the one you looked at, Tim?
The one I remember was actually just 2 people from DC.
Okay, no, this is a DC lobby. It's probably 50 women, but they all have their arms crossed in front of them. All I'm thinking of is that scene in one of the Next Generation episodes where all the Klingons turn their back on Worf. They cross their arms and put their chest and turn like, are they just dissing Heather with this photo? Or?
No, I don't know what it might be, but I'm sure it's probably in support.
I'm sure it's not.
Yeah. So I mean, it just unfortunate thing, and we had some discussion about this before the show, and it's real unfortunate that there's before the show, and it's real unfortunate that there's folks out there who basically enjoy doing this, and call them trolls, call them bullies, call them whatever you want to. It's really unfortunate that these people do this, and it seriously ticks me off. I think it's completely uncalled for. I think that I think that some of it. is completely uncalled for. I think that some of it had something to do with an opinion that Heather posted a couple weeks ago. She said something about her saying that Boba Fett was boring, because I know that elicited a huge response, and a lot of people. Because I know that elicited a huge response, and a lot of people. Tossing that around, and you know, I mean, I happen to not agree with that. I love Boba Fett, but that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and you know, there were some people who, you know, intelligently debated her on it, and and I think that she was very receptive to those. And there were other people that immediately went into personal attacks and acting all incredulous about it, and you know, those are the folks who are, you know, just very disrespectful, and I think some of that bled into this, and just very disrespectful, and I. Folks who are just very disrespectful, and I think some of that bled into this, and you know, it's just really unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's a difference between having an intelligent debate on a topic, and the other end of it is people with no filter.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's part of the problem with the internet these days is everything's anonymous or at least somewhat removed. Filter.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's part of the problem with the internet these days is everything's anonymous or at least somewhat removed. You're not in somebody's face. You can say anything you want with no repercussions. Mm-hmm. And if you're not face to face, you don't know the person personally. You know, there's just no filter on anybody's voices these days. I'm like, why would you say that? You wouldn't say it to someone's, you know, face if you were right there with them. Well, maybe they would, but I think most people wouldn't. And it just seems so bizarre. I don't know. I mean, bizarre. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, seems so bizarre. I don't know. I mean,
It'll work.
so bizarre. I don't know. I mean,
Nope.
seems so bizarre. I don't know. I mean,
Nope.
bizarre. I don't know. I mean, in general, I think today people are just too free with what they say. And I'm not trying to say no freedom of speech. It's just, I don't know. I mean, in general, I think today people are just too free with what they say. And I'm not trying to say no. In general, I think today people are just too free with what they say. And I'm not trying to say no freedom of speech. It's just, you know, there's a whole thing of, oh, did I say that out loud? It's just, you know, there's a whole thing of freedom of speech. It's just, there's a whole thing of, oh, did I say that out loud? You know, as a joke.
Right.
And yeah, it's like, no, there's some things you want to keep inside. It's like, no, I said that in my head, not to you,
Right.
you know, but oh boy.
Yeah. So it's pretty crappy, but it was nice to see over the last few days this huge outpouring of support that came from it.
Yeah, no,
which is really
I
cool.
think in general it's been good to see the support of everybody. You know, when the geeks of the world unite, and I think it's a good thing. So
Yeah.
At least they could have, you know, made their hashtag grammatically correct.
Chris, my wife would be very proud of you. She's an English major, so she'd be very proud of you.
I literally have one problem with this whole spiel, and it's that it's grammatically incorrect.
And there it is.
Yeah, that's my 2 cents incorrect.
And there it is.
Yeah, that's my 2 cents. I gave my 2 cents to you guys offline. I'm not going to repeat it here, except that I think it's stupid because it's grammatically incorrect.
You had a problem with the whole Apple think different thing, didn't you? I just heard the sigh. I won't go any further. Different thing, didn't you? I just heard the sigh. I won't go any further. Let's see. I think one last thing before we. I just heard the sigh. Let's see. I think one last thing. Let's see. I think one last thing before we get off the air here tonight is we have some listener feedback and emails. I don't have them in front of me.
I do. I can read.
Listener feedback and emails. I don't have them in front of me.
I do. I can read.
As he says, breaking up over the.
I do. I can read.
As he says, breaking up over the internet there.
Yeah, you guys say that I can't read, so I'm going to prove that I can read.
Okay, good, awesome.
You,
I do. I can read.
As he says, breaking up over the internet there.
I do. I can read.
Okay, good, awesome.
you have to
Should I
show
read
a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Should I read the whole thing, or how do you guys want to do it?
You know, I think there's some really good points brought up in them. I see no reason not to. You know, I think there's some really good.
Or how do you guys want to do it?
I think there's some really good points brought up in them. I see no reason not to read them through.
Okay, well,
Not to read them through. To read them through. Read them through. And not to. No reason not to read them through. Not to read them through.
okay, well, the first one here is from Jacob.
Jacob,
And pardon me if
Jake from
Okay, well, the first one here is from Jacob.
Jake from
and
State
pardon me
Farm.
if God, that's Jake, not Jake. Jacob, it's Jake from State Farm.
Yeah. It's actually Jake from Kansas. Hi, Jake. Thank you for writing, Jake.
He said in Kansas, not from Kansas. Maybe he's not from there.
Oh, yeah, he is Jake from Jake in Kansas. Interesting. Anyways, so
I don't want to do that. That's prime trash track material.
I read the whole thing, or how do you guys want to do it?
I think there's some really good points brought up in them. I see no reason not to read them through.
Okay, well, the first one here is from Jacob.
Jake from
and
State
pardon me
Farm.
if Jacob.
Start there. Now.
Oh, yeah, he is Jake from Jake in Kansas. Interesting. Anyways, so sorry if I get long-winded here, but Jake writes regarding your discussion of whether. But Jake writes.
I think there's some really good points brought up in them. I see no reason not to read them through.
Okay, well, the first one here is from Jacob. Jake writes, regarding your discussion of whether or not the Star Wars universe should revolve around the Jedi and the Force, which you all agree that it should not. I too agree that it should not. Star Wars is fantasy and
Little mouth sounds.
I too. Which you all agree that it should not. I too agree that it should not. Star Wars is fantasy and sci-fi. As a kid, the idea that I could somehow be a Jedi if I could only find an Obi-Wan was what really captured my imagination. Midi-chlorians kind of killed that later on, of course, but I just tried to put it out of my mind and imagine that I could be the next Luke or Rey or even Chirrut. However, I also love the sci-fi side of Star Wars. As a kid, I wanted to grow up and be a fighter pilot, and X-Wings and A-Wings probably influenced that. Love for the A-Wings, yeah, I like this guy. All that being said, I loved The Force Awakens because it brought that fantasy world back to me. I left the theater feeling like a giddy little kid again. My kids, ages 4 and 8, both like... My kids... Giddy little kid again. My kids, ages 4 and 8, both like Rogue One best. It's the sci-fi world that they've fallen in love with. Star Wars isn't everything to everybody, but it does have something for everybody. To me, to completely ignore one side of the coin or the other in any movie would do a disservice to a large segment of the audience. I don't want any of the movies to be 100% Jedi free, but even if it's just Kyber crystals and Guardians of the Whills. Darth Vader was in the movie just because it served the story and put a neat little bow on it. The comics now indicate the Vader of the Whills. Darth Vader was in the movie just because it served the story and put a neat little bow on it. The comics now indicate the Vader let the Tantive go intentionally and put a tracking device on it, finally solving the question of how do they find the damn thing halfway across the galaxy.
I think that Jake brings up some great points. I like his mention that Star Wars is both fantasy and sci-fi. Brings up some great points. I like his mention that Star Wars is both fantasy and sci-fi, and I think those things kind of engage different parts of us and parts of our interests. And him mentioning that while Star Wars isn't everything to everybody, but it does have something for everybody. You don't have to like everything that's Star Wars to be a Star Wars fan. There are some people who are huge Star Wars fans who really only pay heed to the films, and that's totally fine. Some people like the book, some people like Chris do not. And that's okay, Chris.
Some people think the books are garbage. And some people think that some of the writers are garbage too, but I didn't say that. I just think the books are garbage.
And while
again, that's Chris at randomchatter.com.
That's right. And while we poke fun at you for it, Chris, we totally respect it. That's fine. And some people like the animated stuff, some people don't. And even within all that, some people will like, some people don't. And even within all that, some people will like certain aspects of it and certain things. A lot of this discussion centered around the Jedi and the Force being the Jedi and discussion centered around the Jedi and the Force being in everything or not. And some people will gravitate in everything or not. And some people will gravitate. And some people will gravitate toward that. And to them, a Jedi and a lightsaber is the centerpiece to Star Wars. And I totally understand that. I see that, and especially growing up with Star Wars as a kid, that's kind of one of those things that draws you. For me, as time went on, I was a little less inclined toward a lot of that, and I got attracted to other parts of the films. But I definitely acknowledge that it is a huge piece. But to me, I don't think it's everything. And I think great thoughts in here from Jake. So
no, I agree 100%, and I like his thought of it doesn't have to be 100%, and I like his thought of it doesn't have to be no Jedi at all. If it's a mention of the crystals in the Guardians of the Whills, that's fine. There's a small little thing to it. And even like we were talking before the show started tonight, Tim, we're both reading Inferno Squad, and it's not about Jedi. It's not about the Force, but there was, I think, and I'm almost done with it now, and not to even think, it's not about Jedi. It's not about the Force, but there was, I think, and I'm almost done with it now, and not to even think way too, but there was like 2 mentions of the Force in the book, I think.
Right.
And unless there's a big scene at the end, it was a big Jedi battle, which I don't think is coming. There won't be. But just the fact they mentioned, Force user, just kind of off the cuff, it's like, okay, it sets the tone of we're in that universe. We don't have to have a Jedi taking over the scene and being the main part of the story.
Yep.
But it just gives you that sense of place of where you're at. And Chris, I think you should read Inferno Squad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
But it just gives you that sense of place of where you're at. And Chris, I think you should read Inferno Squad. Chris, I think I think you should read. And Chris, I think you should read Inferno Squad.
Yeah.
I think you'd really like it.
No comment.
Okay. Okay. We have another email?
Yes, we do. This is from Steve, who is a longtime listener back to the Forcecast days.
Wow.
So thanks for following us over here. We appreciate it.
And I will just mention, by the way, Steve, and we're not going to say his full name here, but Steve's email does come from a military email address. So, Steve, thank you very much for your service.
Steve writes, I just...
From a military email address. It does come from a military email address. So, Steve, thank you very much for your service. Thank you very much for your service.
Steve writes, I just finished listening to your latest Echo-based podcast, recorded July 11th, in which you discuss if Star Wars films need the Force, lightsabers, or the Skywalkers. I have a couple thoughts and comments for you. First, and I believe most importantly, when Kathleen Kennedy was announced as CEO president of Lucasfilm, taking over for George, and Lucasfilm was purchased by Disney, and they announced the sequel trilogy, along with more movies, standalones, Kathleen Kennedy said that the saga films, the episodic films, were, are, and will be about the Skywalkers, while the standalone films will not be about the Skywalkers. From that point of view, if you take the PT and the OT, and now even the ST, the story revolves and really focuses on the Skywalkers. The backdrop to the Skywalker story is the conflict between oppressed people, to include all of the various races and species in the galaxy, against the governments that are oppressing them. Secondary to the Skywalkers and the saga films are the I don't know how to say this word. Machinations?
Machinations.
Okay, of the Force. I don't know how to say this word. Machinations? Machinations?
Machinations.
Okay, of the Force, both light side and dark side, and their effects on the galaxy. Central to that are the Jedi and Sith's use of lightsabers, because in order to properly wield a lightsaber in combat, one needs a certain degree of command of the Force. Now, if you take away points 1 and 2, you're left with just a standard war movie. Initially, that's what was being advertised for Rogue One. However, they add in Jedha, Chirrut, and Vader, meaning the Force and lightsabers, to really make it a Star Wars film. Think about it. In A New Hope, we get two different definitions of the Force. One from Han, where it's just another religion, and one from Ben, where it's a type of energy created by living things. So if you look at it as Han does, then it's really not all that important to Star Wars. But if you come at it from Ben's view, then it is unique to Star Wars, and is what makes it from Ben's view. But if you come at it from Ben's view, then it is unique to Star Wars, and is what from Ben's view, then it is unique to Star Wars, and is what makes a Star Wars movie a Star Wars movie. Therefore, in my honest opinion, if the saga films are to continue, there has to be a Skywalker offspring around which to base an ongoing story. Signed, Steve.
Also, pretty darn brilliant. I like that he mentions
which to base an ongoing story.
Also, pretty darn brilliant. I like that he mentions he kind of turns the story into the story, saying that, hey, this is Han's perspective and this is Ben's perspective, and I think that's pretty brilliant. And I think we can look at that from, we can look at the same thing here in real life, that everyone has different beliefs and thoughts and opinions on things, and that's what makes those things important to us or less important to us. Yeah, some I mean, again, really great points with this. That although I'm inclined to think that with Rogue One is that while we did go to Jedha and we had Chirrut, who had at least some measure of force sensitivity, and Vader in the very end, and it wasn't about the Force to me. So I heard that those additions are what made it a Star Wars film. I think if you took those out of it, I think you still could have had a very viable Star Wars film. Vader obviously was in the end of Rogue One was obviously a Star Wars film. Vader obviously was in the end of Rogue One was obviously a very amazing thing, and I was absolutely giddy over it, because obviously a very amazing thing, and I was absolutely giddy over it because it was just freaking mind-blowing and incredible. But it was just that because it was cool to see Darth Vader, hack and slash through a whole bunch of rebel troopers.
Right, that was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. It really had nothing. It's to me, it's simply because they connected that with A New Hope, and they brought in a major character to do something. But I also had, obviously some different emotional reaction to it, I still had something, but I also had, well, obviously some different emotional reaction to it. I still had a lot of feelings emotionally about her to do something, but I also had a lot of feelings emotionally about seeing Tarkin and about seeing Leia, who are not Force users, and I think it's just simply because of the nostalgia and connecting the stories to me. So I think Rogue One would have been fine without having those in place, and even with them in place, I don't think that's what made it a Star Wars film to me. But in place, I don't think that made place, and even with them in place, I don't think that's what made it a Star Wars film to me. But I understand where Steve's coming from with this.
No, and I agree with you, Tim. I mean, I really enjoyed having Vader at the end of that, and I think I kind of made a big deal of it in the episode we talked about this because we were told no lightsabers, and I was like, just making a point about that. I think it had making a point about that. I think it added to it. I mean, I'm glad they put it in. It would have been a much lesser movie if we didn't have that tie-in to A New Hope at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So that New Hope at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So that worked for me. But I think you can still do the movie without that. I mean, even so, in the movie without the Vader thing, there was talk of the Force thing. There was talk of the Force. There was talk of the Vader thing. There was talk of the Force. It was, it wasn't just a foreign concept. It was part of the movie, even though we didn't see people wielding the Force per se.
Right.
I think the whole Force thing for Rogue One is kind of unique simply for that movie alone, because in my opinion, it shows that the Force isn't some talked about thing that's super relevant in society at this point in the timeline. I mean, look at Han and society at this point in the timeline. I mean, look at Han in A New Hope. He doesn't even believe in it, and he just says it's another religion. And I'm sure he wouldn't say that if he was alive in that time
Right.
of the prequels, and because he's only because he's and because he's only I think around the time of Revenge of the Sith he would have been like 10 maybe, something like that.
Yeah.
Isn't he like 30 or something in A New Hope?
I thought he was late. Yeah, well, yeah, pretty much, yeah. I thought he was late. Yeah. I thought he was late. Yeah. I thought he was late. Yeah.
Or something in A New Hope.
I thought he was late. Yeah, well, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
But yeah, anyways, I think the reason that we had Cheer It and stuff like that is because you need to show that and stuff and stuff like that is because you need to show that the Force isn't just some popular accepted thing like it was during the time of the prequels. And I liked their use of it. I mean, I didn't need to have it. I liked their use of it. I mean, I liked their use of it. I mean, I didn't need to have it, but I did not like it either. I think it was just the right amount that was used. And the Vader thing too, I don't think it was added because you needed lightsabers. I think it was to show that Vader is a character to be reckoned with and not just some old machine or old guy in a machine like some of the original trilogy made him out to be. He is very vicious and menacing.
No, you're right, because with as scary as he was in A New Hope, when we really even see him do anything, this just makes him, whoa, he is really a bad guy. It's like, yeah, nice.
And it's also part of cause we don't see a lot of Anakin before he turns into the whole machine part. We don't see of Anakin before he turns into we don't see a lot of the whole machine part. We don't see a lot of him do a lot of. I mean, we've seen kill younglings, but that's it.
Just kill a bunch of kids. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not like he slaughters the younglings, but that's it.
Just kill a bunch of kids. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not like he slaughters the Jedi Temple and the kids, but like it's not like we visualize Anakin as some really evil. I mean, visualize Anakin as some really evil. I mean, that's evil, but like we can't visualize it. With this, we were able to see it happen, and it was brutal. And I think it did a lot. It did a lot for his character, especially to people that might not be too familiar with Darth Vader.
Who could not be familiar with Darth Vader? Come on.
I actually, funny enough, saw a picture on Facebook of it was one of the Snapchat pictures. A parent had taken a picture of their little girl. The Snapchat pictures of a parent had taken a picture of their little girl. The girl was holding Darth Vader and crying, and the caption said, "This is the moment that I told my daughter that Darth Vader," and crying, and the caption said, "This is the moment that I told my daughter that Darth Vader was a bad guy."
That's great.
Yeah,
nice.
It was cute.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of another show. If you guys are set with that, or if anything
I
else
do
you
have
want
one
to
more
add.
thought that I forgot to mention.
Okay.
The way I see the Force, and I might have said this in the podcast, but I'm just going to reiterate it, is a lot like modern day Christianity in real life. You don't necessarily have to believe it. In fact, many people don't. And you know, there might be a day where like you hear somebody mention church or God or Bible as words, and there in church or God or Bible as words, and there might also be days where you don't hear it. And I think just like you were saying, Lou, in Inferno Squadron or Inferno Squad, whatever it's called, you had like one or two mentions of the Force that just, you know, it just happened to be there. Of the Force that just, you know, it just the Force that just happened to be there. But you know, you could have easily went without it, and if that was a day, but you know, you could have easily went without it, and if that was a day, you might go one day without hearing the Force. You might go one day hearing it like 5 times.
Sure.
It's just like something that's there, and if you want to believe in it, you can. But whether or not the world revolves around it is just, it's up to the believer.
Yeah. Very well
or
put.
the unbeliever.
Very well
Or
put.
the unbeliever.
Well, I think that does bring us to the end of the show then. So if anybody has anything they'd like to add to our discussions, or if they want to have something they want us to read on the air, please send it to us an email. Best way to do that is to send us an email to echobase@randomchatter.com. That gets to all of us, and we'll read it, and maybe we'll include it in one of our listener feedback shows.
Keyword, maybe. If you send us a novel, we might not read it. Isn't that right, guys?
Maybe.
If you want to follow us on social media, you can do so at our Facebook, facebook.com/randomchatternetwork. We also have our Twitter at echobase, our Twitter at randomchatter, my Twitter, which is the best Twitter in the world, at the Curse of Chris.
Wow.
Tim, what is your Twitter?
At Qui-Gon Tim, that's Tim with 2 M's.
Twitter.
At Qui-Gon Tim, that's Tim with 2 M's.
And if for some reason you want to follow Lou on Twitter, even though he never tweets.
Mine's just
what's your
boring.
name? Yeah.
It's just my name, so Lusecki, Loussecki.
Your Twitter is like the barren wastelands of Tatooine.
I don't spend much time on Twitter.
It's like sand.
It gets everywhere.
It's coarse and it's irritating.
Oof.
If I don't tweet, how can it be coarse and irritating? Come on.
That's
Get your story straight. Get your story straight. Come on.
Maybe the fact that you don't tweet is coarse and irritating. Have you ever thought about that?
Maybe.
Maybe there's people who are like, man, I wonder what that Lusecki guy thinks about story X. Let's go to his Twitter to see what he's talking about. And there's nothing there, it's just empty.
Oh, boy.
Tim, you're up.
Nope.
Find all of our shows at randomchatter.com. Now you're
I'm gonna have to keep that timber up in there. But this can go.
It's just
What's your
boring.
name? Yeah.
It's just my name, so Lusecki, Loussecki.
Tim, you're up.
Nope.
Find all of our shows at randomchatter.com. Now you're up.
All right. So, folks, if you like what we're doing here, and even if you don't, spread the word
Actually,
and
Tim,
support
I'm going to
us.
stop you. I'm going to stop you.
What?
You know why?
Why?
Because I'm going to take the chance. Speaking of finding all of our shows at randomchatter.com,
Yes.
yesterday I released an episode with my guest, Saf, who used to be on the Forcecast and does a lot of cool Star Wars stuff.
That's true.
Nice.
Yeah, so you should listen to that.
Absolutely.
Now, Tim, you're free to talk.
So yes, if you like what we're doing here, make sure you spread the word, support us. We definitely appreciate that. Word of mouth is a great thing. You tell folks it's a great thing. You tell folks about us, and hopefully they'll you tell folks about us, and hopefully they'll join in on the fun as well. Another way you can do that, if you're not talking to friends, family, coworkers, another way you can do that, if you're not talking to friends, family, coworkers, total strangers, you can do the internet.
There tends to be a lot of uhs on the outro here.
You can do the internet thing, and you can leave us some reviews on iTunes and Stitcher, all the stars or whatever other symbols they have, and make sure you write something up too, something other than like, hey, these guys are really cool. Write something kind of meaningful about the shows, and that will kind of attract people to what we're doing when they see this whole list of other Star Wars shows. This will kind of steer people in our direction. And if you want people steer people in our direction, and if you want people to continue enjoying us, then that would be great. Then that would be great. Then that would be great. You can also support us financially. Go to patreon.com/random. Go to patreon.com/randomchatter. Your financial contributions, basically, you are our sponsors. Random Chatter. Your financial contributions. Chatter. Your financial contributions, basically, you are our sponsors. Basically, you are our sponsors. We don't do any kind of like corporate sponsorship, at least right now. We're sponsors. We don't do any kind of like corporate sponsorship, at least right now. So we kind of rely on that whole crowdsourcing. So we kind of rely, at least right now. So we kind of rely on that now. So we kind of rely on that whole crowdsourcing thing, which means that, you know, you and dozens and thing, which means that, you know, you and dozens and hundreds and gazillions of other people like you, all just, you know, kind of throw some money our way. All just, you know, kind of people like you, all just, you know, kind of throw some money our way. And that money goes to good things. We have to, you know, pay for our internet hosting fees, and that money goes to, and that money goes to good things. We have to, and that money goes to good things. We have to, you know, pay for our internet hosting fees and our data storage fees and all that. Our data storage fees and all that kind of stuff, so we can kind of continue sharing all the good stuff that we have for you. So patreon.com/sharing all the good stuff that we have for you. So patreon.com/random chatter, even just $1. So patreon.com/random chatter, even just $1 a month can get you access to our Slack channel. We talk about Slack in pretty much every single episode of darn near every show that we do. It is basically just this, you know, online chat room thing, actually with multiple rooms for different topics. Actually, with multiple rooms for different topics, you can talk. Actually, with multiple rooms for different topics, you can talk Star Wars, you can talk movies, you can talk TV, you can talk comics, all sorts of different topics, all sorts of different topics with our hosts, with different hosts, of different topics with our hosts, with different hosts, with different hosts, with our staff, with our staff, and obviously with other fans and Patreon supporters. So it's a good time. There are also other Patreon perks that are out there. If you contribute $5 a month, you get other things. $10 a month, you get other things, and it all kind of are out there. If you contribute $5 a month, you get other things. $10 a month, you get other things, and it all kind of stacks. So, you know, for that $1 a month, you get access to Slack, and for $5 a month, you get the access to Slack, plus you get the $5 a month perks, and it kind of goes on from there. And if you contribute something that's, you know, in the thousands, then it works, and it kind of goes on from there. And if you contribute something that's, you know, in the thousands, then, you know, it's not really listed in the perks, but talk to us. You know, we'll do that's. It's not really listed in the perks, and it's not really listed in the perks, but talk to us. You know, we'll do something fun.
You know, and Tim, don't forget to mention the new perk we had the other night.
Which one's that?
They donated $1 million, and what, we sent them a puppy or something. No,
which one's that?
They donated $1 million, and what, we sent them a puppy or something. No, a gerbil.
Hamster.
Wasn't it a gerbil? Hamster.
Yeah. We'll send you a hamster.
For $1 million.
Yeah, $1 million. $1 million. It doesn't have to be a month. They can just be flat fee $1 million.
Yeah, one time fee, and we'll get you a hamster.
Yeah, we'll send you a hamster. I don't know why, but you'll get a free hamster.
I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, we'll send you a hamster. I don't know why, but you'll get a free hamster.
I don't know where that came from last night, but yeah, it was getting late.
Yeah. Speaking of late, it just turned midnight. So Chris, talk about the music.
Oh, how crazy! It's midnight here.
Music.
Man, you guys, I don't even want to know what goes on Random Chatter whenever now that I'm gone.
You should listen.
I can't because they're not posted yet.
Well, it will be.
I'm glad I left that show.
Listen.
I can't because they're not posted yet.
Well, it will be.
I'm glad I left that show now.
There's some crazy stuff going on over there.
I'm glad I left that show now.
There's some crazy stuff.
Left that show now.
There's some crazy stuff going on over there.
Yeah.
Crazy good.
I heard the bonus content. Anyways, music you hear in this podcast is the Force theme. Music you hear in this podcast is the Force theme by Scandroid and the Imperial March by Celldweller.
See you next week. Good night, everybody. See you next week.
All right, that's the end of that. So, question is, how much did I shave off as far as ums go? Looks like it was about 8 minutes of ums. This is the crazy part when you see how many edits I've done. It's a lot of edits. And we got the trash track down here, which sounds like...
Yeah, I think it's pretty good.
They're,
yeah.
And I add all this stuff up here to it. For the premium content. There we go. That's my favorite. Okay. Move that to the front. So now what we're going to do, we're going to mute that. We're going to shift everything over here. Make sure I didn't miss a region in the front. I didn't. We're going to go in about 15 seconds.
We're making you read those.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the doc. And what I need is I need the Media Explorer. And in here I have the intro and the outro. So this is just a shared Dropbox folder. So I'm gonna put the intro right here. And word of warning, it is loud, but I'm gonna bring it down pretty significantly. And then the outro is gonna go way over here. Believe it or not, it's gonna go where the outro is. All the way over here. About right there. Alright, so let's go over here. And make sure I get a good volume between the intro, Lou saying hello everyone, and the end of this.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Echo Base. It's a nice balmy 70.
Alright, I should probably slow it down.
Hello everyone, welcome back.
Let's let that breathe.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Echo Base. It's a nice balmy.
Sweet, that sounds perfect to me. Let's go to the music over here. Oops. That happens when you double click a region that pops up, and I tend to double click on accident.
Hosts with our staff and obviously with other fans and Patreon supporters, so it's a good time. There are also other Patreon perks that are out there. If you contribute $5 a month, you get other.
Glad I left that show now.
There's some crazy stuff going on over there.
Yeah.
Good night everybody, see you next week.
Okay, I want that to be
Scandroid and the Imperial March by
Goodbye, everybody. See you next week.
Good night everybody, see you next week.
Alright. But I do want to bring that, overall, that volume to be higher. So what I need to do over here is have, in fact, actually, just to make my life a little easier, I'm going to move this guy down here, and we'll call this track the intro, this track the outro, and that way this guy can just be louder.
You contribute $5 a month, you get other things. $10 a month, you get other things, and it all kind of.
Let's see.
Can't because they're not posted yet.
Well, it will be. Good night everybody, see you next week.
Okay, that's gonna be too loud.
Podcast is the Force theme by and the Imperial March by Supplemental.
Good night everybody, see you next week.
Alright, cool. I like that. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna open up trim, and we're gonna do volume. So this is automation, and I'm going to draw in. Actually, I'll just do. So holding down Shift and clicking allows me to adjust volume.
Online chat room thing, actually with multiple rooms for different topics. You can talk Star Wars, you can talk movies, you can talk TV.
Feels good to me right there. Let's keep that down until about right there.
You should listen.
I can't because they're not posted yet.
Well, it will be.
I'm glad I left that show. By Scandroid and the Imperial March by Supplemental.
Okay, let's shift that over.
I heard the bonus content. Anyways, music you hear in this podcast is the Force theme by Scandroid and the Imperial March by Supplemental.
Good night everybody, see you next week.
Sweet. That's good, I think. So now I'm going to unlock time selection, bring it over here to the end, lock it again just in case. I don't have any sound effects or anything like that going on, and what I'm going to do now is...
And even like we were talking before the show started tonight.
Get this nice and loud. All right, so right now...
And even like we were talking before the show started
we're sitting at
tonight,
about
Tim,
20
we're both reading
loudness units.
Inferno Squad, and it's
20
not
loudness
about
units.
Jedi. It's not about
And
the Force, but
I'm going to want it at about -12. So let's bring that threshold down on the limiter.
But, and even like we were talking before the show started tonight, Tim, we're both reading Inferno Squad, and it's not about Jedi. It's not about the Force, but there was, I think, and I'm almost done with it now, and not to give anything away to you, but there was like 2 mentions of the Force in the book, I think.
Right.
And unless there's a big scene at the end, was a big Jedi battle, which I don't think is coming, there won't be. But just the fact that they
Overall, the dynamics look good.
But, and even like we were talking before the show started tonight, Tim.
A little hot.
But, and even like we were talking before the show started tonight, Tim, we're both reading Inferno Squad, and it's not about Jedi. It's not.
I'll accept that, though, for a podcast. And again, loudness, it looks like... we're going a little over -12 here.
But, and even like we were talking before the show started tonight, Tim, we're both reading Inferno Squad, and it's not about Jedi. It's not about the Force, but there was, I think...
Cool. I think it's a good loudness. I think that'll do just fine. So now what I'm going to do is render this. Make sure the trash track is muted. It is. So we'll hit render. And I always call this, so this will be EB107 Final Bearded Audio Edit. And it'll be at 192 kilobits per second. And just, yep, MP3, 192. I'm going to hit render. And I want to do the master mix by time selection. Hit render. And that's going to be it. So thanks for watching. Hopefully this is helpful. This was a long one, so I don't blame you for skipping to the end if that's what you wanted to do. If you have any questions, hit me up. Shoot me an email, beardedaudio.com. And yeah, subscribe to the Random Chatter Network. They're great people. Thanks for watching. Bye.